My family makes the world's best watches.
One of those watches was at an auction in 1996. The bid was headed north of $1 million. And then...
Are we all done? No, 1,000,006. 1,600,000 is the bid. Looking for 1.7. It's only money after all. 1,700,000. Yes.
This specific Patek Philippe didn't just break the $1 million barrier. It smashed it.
Going twice. Sold for $1,700,000 to the bidder in the third row.
That record price tag triggered the launch of a new market, and this Patek Philippe Calatrava astronomic minute repeater has come to be known as the grandfather of the ultra-luxury watch collector's market.
But the real creative drama behind this record-breaking masterpiece started elsewhere, with some farmer watchmakers in isolated mountains.
Grandpa, what's a watch complication?
Well, it's a little bit like a secret in a watch. It's a function that does something extra.
Let's rewind a bit. It's 1929. The Great Depression hits like a freight train. Patek Philippe is in total but controlled panic. They are technically prestigious, but are broke. Sales have tanked by 75%. Patek Philippe is literally looking to sell the company because their biggest customers, wealthy Americans and Europeans, have zero cash.
Let's go to the Victorin workshop.
Most companies would play it safe, right? Cut costs, make cheaper watches. Not Patek. They decided to double down on insanity. They reached out to their secret partners in the Swiss mountains.
We need a masterpiece that has never been seen. Build us a wristwatch-sized engine that contains major complications. We don't have a buyer yet, but we need this in our vault to show the world we haven't given up.
These partners were the special ops of watchmaking, Victorin, Piguet, and Company. The Valley of Complications is a silent mountain valley where the resident farmers were snowed in for 6 months a year.
It's cold outside.
So what did they do? They sheltered in their attics and built tiny mechanical brains to become the cabinotiers, skilled traditional watchmakers. These guys spent years honing their craft and passing it down through generations.
Yes, I am.
The Piguet workshop was a 3-generation pressure cooker. The founder, Victorin Emile, was in his 70s and still the living shadow over his sons.
Patek Philippe was our first customer.
His sons were Jean Victorin and Paul. Jean Victorin was the visionary, the guy in the fine suits dealing with the Geneva corporates. Paul was the workhorse who sat at the bench for 12 hours a day filing metal. And then the grandson, Henri Daniel, who was just starting out.
Building this specific watch movement in 1930 was an exercise in extreme patience. It took between 9 to 12 months of pure, concentrated labor.
And the music, the minute repeater that chimes the time, that was the most stressful part. It was just a man, sunlight, a file, and a tuning fork. Paul Piguet would take 2 tiny circular steel gongs and file them thinner and thinner, checking the pitch every few minutes. If he filed off one microscopic sliver too much, the gong was dead. The work of months was ruined. He'd have to start over from scratch. The absolute silence of the snow-covered valley was his ally. It allowed him to hear imperfections in the chime that you'd never hear in a noisy city. There was also the family drama happening during this time. While they were working on this wristwatch movement, they were also building the Henry Graves Supercomplication, the most expensive pocket watch in history. The seniors were obsessed with the Supercomplication pocket watch. Young Henri Daniel got stuck with the grunt work, but because it was his proving ground, he pushed it to the limit. He had to ensure this tiny watch sounded just as good as the massive Graves watch, or he'd disappoint 3 generations of Piguet men.
Team Victorin Piguet kept their math in secret family journals. They didn't trust outsiders. That Piguet sound was a family secret, and it's exactly what Patek Philippe was paying for.
Once the movement was finished in 1930, it left the mountains and went to Geneva. And then, the ghost years. For 9 years, this masterpiece sat in a drawer. It was an orphaned engine.
In 1932, the Stern family, who were dial makers, bought Patek Philippe. The old guard watchmakers were dismissive.
Welcome, gentlemen. Can you imagine? Dial makers running the world's best watch brand. Unbelievable.
But boy, were they wrong. Because the Sterns brought in Jean
We
Pfister,
do not own the heartbeat of our watches. We do not truly own our
a
name.
well-reputed watchmaker.
Pfister was the poached genius. He was the bridge of credibility between the old owner and the new.
Fast forward to 1939. A mystery merchant walked in and asked for something unique. He wanted something that symbolized quiet wealth. They wanted it in platinum.
Platinum.
When Pfister opened a vault, saw this 1930 Piguet movement, he didn't see an old piece of stock. He recognized that the engineering was still unmatched.
Amazing.
Even though it was a decade old, it was better than anything anyone else was making.
So Pfister called in the titan of Geneva watch case makers, Antoine Gerlach. At the time, Gerlach was in his early 40s, the perfect age. He was old enough to be respected by the directors, but young enough to handle the most physically demanding metal in existence. Gerlach had to hand-carve a 31mm shell, roughly the size of a dollar coin, out of a solid block of platinum.
If it was loose, the hammers wouldn't strike. If it was too tight, the watch calendar would bind. Gerlach spent months hand-sawing and filing. He even created a heavy integrated platinum bracelet that felt like a bar of bullion on the wrist. And inside, he left his secret signature, a tiny key 4 key mark.
There's also the dial connection. While Gerlach carved the case and the Piguets created the movement, the dial was made by the company owned by Patek's new owners, the Sterns.
Platinum cases are insanely heavy and dense. The dial plate actually had to be reinforced, else it would warp under the massive pressure of the watch movement. It was a three-way technical battle between the mountain movement, the platinum case, and the reinforced dial. Once the case was ready, the final marriage and assembly began. This wasn't a quick job. An in-house Patek specialist, an adjuster, spent roughly 3 months just timing the watch. They'd test it in different positions: dial up, dial down, crown up, crown down, crown left, crown right. Why? Because gravity is the enemy of accuracy. They had to ensure the watch kept perfect time while the owner moved their arm.
Then came the final voicing. Pfister personally supervised this. Much like crafting a Stradivarius violin, the Vallée de Joux and the Piguets were the luthiers who built the instrument and set the strings. The Geneva craftsmen and Patek Philippe were the concert soloists who performed the final tuning.
Platinum is deader than gold. It swallows sound. The Patek master had to file those gongs one last time while they were inside the case to make sure the chime could be heard in a modern city. It was the first time in history that 4 distinct masters, the Piguets, Pfister, Gerlach, and the Sterns, had to align their genius for one single wristwatch.
The result? A 31mm masterpiece that defied the Great Depression. The total creation time for this watch, from the first sketch in those mountains to the final polish in the city of Geneva, was roughly 10 years.
Jean Pfister led Patek Philippe for decades. He gave us the Calatrava aesthetic. If he were alive today, he'd probably be proud, but not surprised, to know that his 1939 project became the first wristwatch in history to break the $1 million barrier. Pfister knew that when you combine 3 generations of mountain secrets with Geneva casemakers and craftsmen, you aren't just assembling a watch. You are part of innovation history. We're bringing you more of the world's firsts right here on this very channel. So hit that subscribe and check out these videos right here.